It is my great pleasure to introduce Chantal Hébert, recipient of a 2021 Carleton University honorary degree. Ms. Hébert has had a truly distinguished career in journalism and political commentary. Her insightful analysis appears regularly on a number of national media outlets, including the Toronto Star and the magazine L'Actualité. She also appears on the political panel on CBC's The National, as well as Radio-Canada's Les Coulisses du Pouvoir on television, and Tout un matin on Montreal radio. Ms. Hébert began her career in 1975 in Toronto as a reporter for Radio-Canada. She served as a parliamentary bureau chief for both Le Devoir and La Presse. She has written 2 books, French Kiss, Stephen Harper's Blind Date with Quebec, and The Morning After, about the 1995 Quebec referendum. In 2012, she was appointed to the Order of Canada. In 2019, her peers in the Parliamentary Press Gallery awarded her the Charles Lynch Award for her long-standing coverage of national issues. Congratulations, félicitations to Dr. Hébert from all of us at Carleton University.
Ben d'abord, je veux vous remercier de m'honorer de cette façon. This is almost as close to my hometown as I will have been over the course of the academic world since I studied in Toronto, but I was actually born at Montfort Hospital in Ottawa, so I'm honored to be honored by Carleton University. I only hope that you don't expect me to provide a lot of life advice. I think I would be a poor choice for offering life advice, as all my plans did not totally pan out. They were certainly very half-baked when I was a student in university. In the old days, the media bosses, in the days when the media had money, used to take journalists, political journalists, to lunch after an election campaign, kind of a way to say thank you for having worked 7 days a week, almost 24/7 for whatever length the election campaign was on. And when I was the bureau chief at La Presse, after one campaign, at one of those lunches, we noticed that a number of us were sporting either Tintin, the cartoon character who is a reporter, pins or watches. And the top manager asked, why in the world would so many of you have Tintin ornaments on you? And the answer to that was that, at least in French, Tintin is considered by many as the patron saint of journalists for one major reason. He gets to travel a lot and have a lot of adventures, but he never, ever has to file. And I think that example was drummed into us when we were kids, all those books that our parents gave us, not knowing that it would lead to the kind of life that journalists lead, as in always wanting to see more adventure, not necessarily always wanting to write about them on deadline, is what it led to. But if I had to offer one general piece of advice, it would be to try to do something you like or love, or alternatively, love or like whatever it is you do. And the two are really different. I always wanted to be a journalist, but I was also a really, really, really shy person. So shy that when I first landed the summer job in the newsroom, my shift was from 4 a.m. to noon, and I dreaded 9 o'clock because the others would be coming in the newsroom, and it would be my biggest effort in the day to just say good morning, because I felt that I was so young compared to them and so shy about being in an environment where there were so many people who were outspoken. So I had decided to make my plan work, that I would be an editor and I would work behind the scenes. I wouldn't have to see a microphone or a camera, really. I would just be kind of the orchestra leader that figures out what pieces or what parts of the song would be sang. As luck would have it, when I applied for an editor's job and was turned down, my supervisors felt that it would be easier for everyone in the newsroom if they shipped me off to Queen's Park to cover the Ontario legislature. And that is how I started to cover politics. Not from some great calling, but rather because my supervisors wanted to get rid of me in the newsroom. Thanks to them, I never came back in the newsroom, and I went from Queen's Park to Parliament Hill. I had also decided that I would always work in French because I was born in Ottawa but raised in Hull. When my parents moved to Toronto, when I was 12, my English was grade 7 English in Quebec, so I knew how to say the dog and the cat are with Paul and Mary. And everyone else in the class was studying Shakespeare. So there was a bit of a gap, which never got resolved. And by the time I finished university, went to Glendon College, a bilingual college, I had made sure that I spent all my years in university doing all my written work in French. It was possible. I got decent marks, and that was that. And so when decades later, I was first offered a guest column in the Ottawa Citizen, the person who offered me the column said, "Of course, you can write in English." And I answered, "Well, yeah, of course." I'd actually never written a text or a paragraph in English since my grade 13 English exam, which I barely passed. This is all to say that if you do have plans, be ready to make changes to them. You'll probably feel that you are fortunate for having had a chance to change those plans. And if you don't have great set out plans for what happens after this, well, don't worry. It's probably a safe thing to just plunge into whatever opportunities are offered to you and do what you can or want to make of them. A couple of words on politics. To be a political journalist is to actually be paid to watch history happen. And over the course of the more than 4 decades that I've now spent watching politics, I have seen a lot of political events that are now part of the history books. One of the first votes that I got to watch in the House of Commons was the last vote that was taken in Parliament over the capital punishment, and whether we should restore it or continue to not have capital punishment. It wasn't a given that the outcome would be that we would keep capital punishment off the books, because the government that had promised that vote, a conservative government, held a majority in the House. And then a number of the MPs, the Quebec MPs who were elected under Brian Mulroney, sided with the opposition in a free vote, and capital punishment was done for good in Canada. I've watched votes over access to abortion, same-sex marriage, free trade. The list is long. I've covered campaigns that were extraordinary. The Quebec referendum campaign in 1995 was one of those, but also the campaign that saw Jack Layton and the NDP sweep Quebec in the Orange Wave. And over all those years of watching things that do stay with you, the one thing I discovered is that while your university lives in the shadow of Parliament Hill, and we are mostly based there on a daily basis, and the landmarks we use for change in this country are usually related to votes and elections, the real drivers of change are voters. And it is their capacity to change themselves, to take on new perspectives, to think of things differently, that actually drive the political debate. The House of Commons did not legalize marijuana so that Canadians could decide what they wanted to do about marijuana. The House of Commons in the last Parliament recognized what was reality, that is, that Canadians wanted and were ready to have legal access to marijuana. What was extraordinary about that particular vote was that very little happened once it was done. The House of Commons did not create LGBTQ rights. The House of Commons rallied to ideas that had grown within voters' ranks. And why I'm telling you all this is because whatever you decide to do after this, wherever life takes you, you should remember that change is not something that happens to you. It is something that you can embrace and drive and have a lot of fun in the process. And I will leave you with just one piece of advice. We're usually lacking in ceremonies like these, I've noticed, certainly lacking when I graduated. if you are going to remember just one thing going forward, it should be that you should remember to have fun along the way. I most certainly did, and I'm happy that I'm still having more fun doing what I do than just about anything else I could think of doing. Merci encore. Profitez de votre journée un peu spéciale. Au revoir.